Hey guys, what's up? RPatrick here, and today I have the Week 2 weekly recap for PICA Week 2. I said 2 so many times in that sentence. Anyway, in this week, a lot of the winners from last week played the winners from last week, and a lot of the losers from last week played fellow losers. The only exception to this was the Trevenants versus Bastiodons and the Malamars versus the Golbats, which was winner versus loser in that sense, but the other 6 matches were all winner versus winner and loser versus loser. So those made up for some pretty interesting matchups. Without any further ado, let's get started with the first match. So for our first match, we have the Philly Shuckles versus the Detroit Magnetons. This match was a very hit-for-hit match up to a certain point. For every few turns in the beginning, something seemed to be fainting. Whether it was Galvantula feigning the Heracross knockoff, then it was Tornado's Therian taking out Jirachi with its knockoff, then Heracross dying to Tornado's Therian's Aerial Ace, then it was Mamoswine dying to the burn it was Psycho Shift from Sigilyph, then it was Miltank dying to a Stealth Rock switching, after suffering a burn from Sigilyph, then it was Tornado's Therian again killing someone, this time Roto-Mo with a knockoff, and then finally, Flygon dying to a prediction from Thunderous Therian with a hidden power ice. So this left Jellicent, Tornadus Therian versus Thunderous Therian, Sigilyph, and Suicune. And it got to the point where it was Suicune and Sigilyph stalling out and trying to kill Jellicent, which led up to basically a 30-turn part where after Suicune was continually taunted by Jellicent so that I couldn't kill it because its only attack move was Scald. It switched out into Sigilyph, where Sigilyph got off one Cosmic Power before getting taunted, and then constantly going for Sword Power in order to kill Jellicent after it was also Psychic Shift to burned. So it was just slowly wearing down to Jellicent until finally Sigilyph was able to kill the Jellicent. Then Tornadus Therian was able to revenge it with a knockoff, and then finally Suicune killed the Tornadus Therian with 2 skulls. So this ended with Philly Shuckles having a 2-0 victory. Honestly, if the Suicune was at a little bit lower health, Tornadus Therian would have been able to kill it, then outspeed Thunderous Therian and kill that. So this wasn't out of the Detroit Magnetons' control, and I could have seen them winning this match if things had gone a bit differently. But the Philly Shuckles were able to keep what was important alive, and were then able to win the match. So, let's move on to our next match. Next, we have the DMR Shadow Absols versus the Richmond Quagsires. And this was another pretty close match, comparatively to what happened last week for the DMR Shadow Absols. They played very well this match, but weren't quite able to beat the Richmond Quagsires, as it ended in a 2-0 victory for the Richmond Quagsires. It seemed like Arcanine was a really good bring this week for the Richmond Quagsires, as the Arcanine very much stopped a lot of the Shadow Absol's momentum, constantly tossing in his team and will-wisping a key member, the Slurpuff, so that it could not sweep. Though, if the DMR Shadow Absols had gone for Return instead of Drain Punch the first turn after the Belly Drum, it would have killed the Arcanine, and they could have actually potentially won, as one of the key things Arcanine did was actually get a Toxic on the Mega Slowbro while it was Calm Minding, allowing the DMR Shadow Absols to be on a timer and unable to fully heal up, and thus giving Superior enough damage on it to make sure that it could kill with an Leaf Storm, an unboosted Leaf Storm, while the Mega Slowbro was at +2. Other than that, it seemed like the other members of the team were able to individually weaken other mods. Cofagrigus was able to weaken Machamp before dying to its knockoff, allowing Machamp to die to... I forget what it died to again. Let me quickly find that. This spelled fainted, my bad. Dying to a Leaf Storm from Superior. Doublade fell to Arcanine after it died to its Rocky Helmet, as well as taking a big hit from Diance's Earth Power. So, Crocodile was able to weaken up the Malamars before dying to its foul play. The Mega Diancie was able to kill off the Mew with a few Moonblasts and a Diamond Storm, which was pretty good because Mew was the heal bowler, which meant that Mega Slowbro could get toxic without it being healed off. Mega Slowbro wasn't, like I said, Mega Slowbro was taken down by the Superior, and afterwards, Mandibuzz did not pack Brave Bird, so it was also eventually taken out by the Superior, which led to the 2-0 victory. So I think Superior and Arcanine were the two mons that helped the Richmond Quagsires win the most, and with Mega Diancie helping along on the side. Though I feel like every mon on his team, besides maybe Reuniclus, which didn't really do much, helped to weaken his team and thus make it more susceptible to those two mons. So with that being said, let's move on to the third match of the week. Next up we have the Indus Valley Infernape versus the Iowa Focus Energy. This was a very interesting match on how it actually started. You see, this match actually happened 2 a.m. Monday, which was past the deadline for this week. Originally, it was going to be an 0-3 victory for the Iowa Focus Energies due to a forfeit. However, Rohith showed up around that time, and Nick decided to allow the battle to occur because he just felt it wouldn't be fair, and he was feeling kind of nice as well. So the battle occurred, and it was definitely a good battle. In the end, it ended in an 0-1 victory for the Iowa Focus Energy. So they still ended up winning, but by a smaller margin. This was definitely a battle where Nick tried to pull off some interesting stuff. For one, he had a Baton Pass Nasipod Togekiss, which both Baton Passed into Seismitoad and Gengar, both of which failed due to Seismitoad not having enough firepower to kill Mega Venusaur. After it megaed up, it had enough bulk to live a second Earth Power, and then killed with Giga Drain. And then Gengar not being able to kill Vaporeon, and then dying to 2 Scalds from Vaporeon. Also, it subbed on Vaporeon, thinking that he would switch, and that brought him down to the point where he died to another Scald. Though he was helped by Blissey, who actually had who he actually ran counter on, which killed both Conkeldurr and Bisharp, both two massive physical attackers that normally would take out Blissey, but thanks to Blissey being fully invested in defense, and Conkeldurr going for knockoff instead of Drain Punch, it was able to live and then kill the counter. Though it would have lived anyway if it had a fighting type move, because the Blissey was holding a Chople Berry, so it still would have been able to take it. Tyrantrum also got a bunch of kills, as it killed Vaporeon after Vaporeon killed Gengar with a Head Smash. It then killed Rotom Heat, who switched in right afterwards. Originally, while I was watching it, I thought Rohith was bluffing the Scarf, but apparently he only misclicked, and he didn't want to go into Rotom Heat. Whether that actually mattered or not is debatable because of the ending, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And he was also able to kill the Golbat after Golbat killed Mega Gallade. You see, because Mega Gallade was in on Golbat, and the Psychic Cut was obvious, so Nick thought he'd go into Bisharp, so he went for close combat. However, Rohith predicted this and just went straight for the Brave Bird to kill Mega Gallade. So after Tyrantrum killed Golbat, Bisharp killed the Tyrantrum with an Iron Head, and then Bisharp died to a counter from Blissey. So with that being said, all that was left was Mega Venusaur versus Blissey. Now, if Mega Venusaur had hit his first Sleep Powder, the match would have been over. The match would have depended on sleep turns, because if Blissey had slept for 2 turns straight, in the Indus Valley Infernape would have won. However, since they missed their Sleep Powder, Blissey was able to get a softball up, being in a comfortable range to still live Mega Venusaur's hits after being put to sleep. And this just led to a big stall battle, which took more than the rest of the game. I think it took around 40, let me count this, 43 turns. And even if Rotom Heat was alive for this, it also probably couldn't touch Blissey, I would assume. Unless there was some weird move it had that can touch Blissey, but I don't think it did. Because eventually also Bliss got just poisoned from a sludge bomb Mega Venusaur was doing. So that also stopped it from being status. So who knows what could happen. If the Rotom had Toxic on it, then that might have mattered. But if it didn't, then the outcome would have been the same. So it ended up being 0-1 for the Iowa Focus Energy. Possibly another way the Indus Valley Infernapes could have won this was to, instead of staying in a Bisharp for the counter, could have gone into Mega Venusaur, sleep out of that, then go back into Bisharp to try and kill the Blissey, but that was also a very shaky method of killing. Who knows, though. So, with that being said, let's move on to the other Sapphire Division match for this week. That would be my match, which was against the Denver Dashers. This match was definitely an interesting match. I like this match better than the match I had against the DMR Chat Absols, mostly because I didn't get a bunch of hacks in my favor. Possibly just one roll, but even if that one roll didn't go in my favor, I still probably could have won. So, with that being said, this match was the Denver Dashers only prepared decently well for most of my mons, but one mon they didn't have enough preparation for, in my opinion, was the Mega Scizor. Well, they might have. They had Hidden Power Fire and Roserade, as well as the standard Flamethrower on Nidoking. But he let Roserade die to Mega Scizor after it switched into a knockoff and then get killed by a Bullet Punch, and he let Nidoking get trapped by Dugtrio after it killed Regirock. Nidoking itself was a very dangerous mon to my team. After Latias got pursuit trapped by Metagross, I really didn't have much to face off against the Nidoking. But luckily, after Regirock died, I was able to trap it with Dugtrio, and I calculating the damage, I knew he had to be Life Orb, so he couldn't have any Shed Shell shenanigans to save Nidoking. So after that died, there wasn't really much to stop Mega Scizor from setting up. So after setting up Swords Dance while Metagross was in, I was able to kill the Mega Lopunny with a Bullet Punch, though it was actually a roll that was in his favor to live. But I would have lived any move he gone for. Even Fire Punch I would have lived, as I was max defense, max HP. And then I presumed to knock off the Cresselia and kill it after it Thunder Waved me. Kill the Haxorus in one hit with a Bullet Punch, and then kill the Metagross with a knockoff after I get paralyzed once again. And that's about it. That's how the game went. Scizor got 5 kills, which was nice. Now it's 6-0. And that's pretty cool for a mascot. Most mascot picks don't normally do well, but since my mascot is such a great mon, it's to get a lot of it's managing to do really well in the MVP race, as well as be a good member of my team. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention how Dugtrio died. Dugtrio died after dying to a +1 Dragonclaw from Haxorus, who set up on the Dugtrio, predicting it to switch out, but I just stayed in for the Earthquake to kill it. Well, not to kill it, to try and get some damage off on it, but Haxorus lived with 43%, and then killed me with and then killed the Dugtrio with the Dragonclaw. But yeah, this was basically just Mega Scizor being able to handle most of his team, with Dugtrio taking out the biggest threat to Mega Scizor. Overall, I thought Patrick played fine. It just overall. The matchup was just in my favor, if I would be honest. Mega Scizor just really did well against his team, and since he didn't bring Magneton, there was nothing to be scared of Mega Scizor being trapped or anything like that. So I definitely expect him to bring Magneton in the revenge match. But yeah, so it ended in a 3-0, pretty good match, and let's move on to the other conference. Next up, we have the Berkhamsted Bastion and the Transylvania Trevenants. The Berkhamsted Bastion won 3-0. And, yeah, the Berkhamsted Bastion, I think, just kind of outplayed the Trevenants in this match. Or, more of, the Trevenants kind of made a lot of questionable plays. Not to say that he isn't a good battler. He is. I've seen him do well, but this was definitely not the best match for him. First turn, the Almamola actually gets, trapped by a Selgor using Infestation, and then proceeds to get killed by a combination of Acid Spray then Bug Buzz. Though the Almamola does wear down the Selgor to the point where it's only at only had a low amount of HP. I believe it was around 30%, maybe 21. I forget. Then strangely enough, he sends in Umbreon, a mon that could have taken huge amounts of damage from a Bug Buzz, which was very weird. Though the Excelgor does switch out, and it is swapped out into Whimsicott. Then Umbreon stays in Ghost of a Wish as Whimsicott just Moonblasts, which is kind of a weird play by the Trevenants, but I guess he was expecting maybe Subseed, which is, fair enough. A few turns goes by. Charizard is able to kill the Tentacruel with an Earthquake, and then afterwards is scared out by Garchomp by the fear of it outspeeding and killing it with the Dragon Claw. And I believe he goes into a Azelf, which takes the Dragon Claw just barely and scares out the Garchomp for it outspeeds it. Then here comes the Bastiodon's attack off a Selgor to the Dazzling Gleam, and then the Bastiodon sending Dragonite. Obviously going to go for the extreme speed. But here comes another weird play by the Trevenants. They not only stay in with Azelf, which is kind of understandable, even though I would have saved it because it outsped the rest of his team. He stays in and lets it die to extreme speed. Then he brings in Umbreon, which then dies again to an extreme speed, as Umbreon was at a low amount of health thanks to the Whimsicott. And then he sends in Breloom, which actually could do something to Dragonite. It was just a weird set of plays. Like one or the other would have been fine, like sacking off the Azelf to get initiative, or sacking off the Umbreon to get initiative. That would have been fine, but sacking them both off one after another, that's not really. Was definitely a questionable play. Afterwards, the Breloom comes out, and goes for a Rock Tomb to try and kill the Dragonite. Though the Bastiodon switch out into Whimsicott to take the Rock Tomb, which it takes. Alright, it does almost half. So they then switch out the Whimsicott into Garchomp as Breloom goes for Facade, and does a decent chunk of damage to the Garchomp. But then the Garchomp uses Endure, which allows it to live a second Facade, and the Breloom dies to both Rocky Helmet, Rough Skin, and Poison damage. So it's only Mega Charizard and Ditto left. So of course, the best play would be to send in Ditto as Garchomp outspeeds the Charizard, or at least most likely does. But then the Trevenants send out Mega Charizard to try and kill the Garchomp, which isn't the most questionable play if he thinks that the Garchomp is bulky, but it ends up not being, and outspeeding the Mega Charizard. So then he sends in Ditto, and after a little bit of Endure shenanigans, both the Ditto and the Garchomp go down. So yeah, it ends in a 3-0 victory for the Bastiodons. Honestly, I think the Trevenants just didn't play to the best of their abilities. They made a few questionable plays, though I don't have any doubt that they will get some wins eventually. They have shown that they are decent at this, and hopefully they will get a few wins soon. I don't like seeing a team go 0 and however number of weeks there actually is. But hopefully they can bounce back sometime soon. But it seems like the Bastiodons are playing very strongly so far, and there's no doubt that they will go far if they keep playing like this. Next up, we have the LA Slowkings versus the Oneonta Quagsires. So this was another match that had some weird circumstances for how it started. The LA Slowkings and the Oneonta Quagsires were actually gonna battle on, I believe it was Thursday, but then they had to delay due to the LA Slowkings having poor internet, and having internet troubles. I mean. So, a few days passed, and then they were able to pick up the battle again. So, yeah, internet troubles are a normal thing, so it wasn't too bad, and they were able to eventually do their match. And it ended up being a very close match, being 0-1 for the Oneonta Quagsires' favor. In this match, it was basically Mons going down one after another, with Dragalge going down to, actually, Registeel going down to Dragalge's Focus Blast. Dragalge going down to Donphan's Earthquake. Let's see. Lantern and Volcarona having Volcarona trying to set up a Lantern and eventually killing it with some bug buzzes and toxic and poison damage. Sorry I'm saying this very slowly. I'm just trying to remember how everything went. Shuckle being able to stall at Volcarona with a combination of infestation and a toxic previously set up by Lantern. Then Shuckle being taken down by Quagsires Scald. Quagsire and Donphan both dying to Mega Gardevoir's Energy Ball. Saw killing Mega Gardevoir with Poison Jab. Xduff killing an Absols, which was sent in as fodder, so that Saw can come back in and kill both Xduff and Sir after 2 close combats. And the Quagsires won, and leaving Quagsire with just Sock left. So basically, Sock was able to clean up the end game, and the LA Slowkings were unable to beat Sock as it outsped the rest of his team. Though if he had actually made the prediction of Xduff and going into Xduff on Mega Gardevoir, predicting the Poison Jab, this match could have been a lot different. And the LA Slowkings could have won. In fact, he was planning on making that switch. But I think Cancel messed up, and thus he stayed in with Mega Gardevoir. I am not sure if I'm correct on that information. I'm sure he'll correct it maybe in the comments if he watches this, but something happened with Cancel or something like that, and he was unable to actually make the switch. Maybe he second-guessed himself, or Cancel just didn't work. One of the two. Those were one of the two. But in the end, it ended up being the Quagsires win. So, moving on to the Pearl Division. So next up, we have the Sequim Malamars versus the Gotham Golbats. This ended up as a 4-0 in the Sequim Malamars' favor, but the score doesn't explain everything. This was actually a decently closer match than you would expect. Both of them brought pretty balanced teams, each with their own wall. Yeah, just balanced teams with a wall core of Aggron, Sylveon, and maybe Rotom. I need to double check. Because Rotom was in fact a wall. I think Rotom was a wall. So a wall core of Rotom, Sylveon, and Mega Aggron, versus a wall core of Empoleon and Weezing. Speaking of walls, Weezing and Empoleon were the first to go down in this match for Chris. Empoleon goes down to Espeon's hidden power from Espeon after it was whittled down to only 24%, and Weezing goes down to a Hydro Pump from Rotom as he was losing switch-ins for what he can send in on Rotom because there was a possibility of burning if he sent in Virizion. Before Weezing went down, Volcanion actually went down to 2 Leaf Blades from Virizion. Volcanion actually had a Wakan Berry in order to handle Jolteon, just in case if it wanted to kill it, because then it could go for... Because if Jolteon went for Thunderbolt, it can take the hit, then kill it possibly with an Earth Power, or maybe a powerful stab. But then things came down to Virizion versus Mega Aggron. It was a 50-50 chance, from what I can calc. I'm assuming he's Jolly Life or Max Attack, Virizion. He sets up a Sword Stance. There is a 50% chance that a close combat will kill a Mega Aggron from full, which is where it was at. Mega Aggron had only 16 defense EVs and an Impish Nature, which is a plus defense nature. But you know how high a defense Mega Aggron has, and it is able to win the coin flip and live the close combat with 7% left, which is one of the lowest rolls Chris could have gotten. Because it expanded from 91 to 108, I believe, and basically the calc said there was a 50-50 chance of whether or not he would live or die. If the Mega Aggron had died, this would have meant that he would have to send in Espeon to counter the Virizion and make sure that he couldn't sweep the rest of his team. But he could have gone. Well, then Chris could have gone into either could have gone into Latios to sack it. Latios, he doesn't have Latios. He doesn't have a Latios. I have a Latios. He has a Latios. He could have gone into Latios to sack it, and then he could have gone into either Jolteon or Victini to try and revenge the Espeon. And then afterwards, Virizion kind of won from there, depending on how the Malamars played Diggersby. There was still a chance the Malamars could have still won if Aggron had gone down right there. Like, because the Diggersby was scarfed. So if it scarfed itself into return, it could have possibly killed the rest of his team. It is unknown whether or not it could have, but it definitely had a chance to. But because the Aggron lived, it was able to kill the Virizion with an Avalanche, before being taken down by Jolteon's hidden power, and then Diggersby just killed the rest of his team with Earthquake, as Latios did not have only had 6% left and died to Stealth Rocks. So with that, the Sequim Malamars won 4-0, but it's a bit of a closer score than you think. Much like the next battle, actually, which is the Vespiquen Park Rangers versus the Shamrock Snovers. And lastly, we have the Vespiquen Park Rangers versus the Shamrock Snovers. Two of the guys who got the biggest wins last week. I'm along with that, also getting getting a 5-0 last week, the same score that Socrates got against the LA Slowkings. But my win was a little bit less credible thanks to all the paralysis hacks I got on Cedric. So it's the Vespiquen Park. The Vespiquen Park Rangers with a 5-0 win and the Shamrock Snovers with a 6-0 win were facing off, and it was going to be a very good match. And in my opinion, they both built pretty well. They both had teams that could take on the other. Helios could, for example, could wall Manaphy, as well as do a decent job volt switching around his team. However, Darmanitan, if scarfed, could outspeed and kill it, and Hitmontop could take most hits from it if it was like a Solfist or a bulkier Hitmontop, and then kill with close combat. On the flip side, things like Mega Ampharos could definitely could definitely beat out things like Crobat and Slowking, and even with Focus Blast can even kill Mega Tyranitar if it's low enough. But things like Shaymin can take its hits pretty well, and and same with Hippowdon, who can then kill with Earthquake. So, as you can see, both these teams had very good teams against each other. However, whoever team loses too many mons first will fall. Like, say if 2 mons fainted on one side, the other side that had more mons would definitely win, as their teams are just that well built that if one of the mons fell, they're not going to last long. To be fair, Druddigon was the first one to fall, and it fell pretty early, but it didn't. I'll be honest, Druddigon was not that important to this team, especially since Socrates did not bring Infernape. However, after Mega Ampharos fell to, I believe it was a Hyper Voice from Helios after switching in on it, Brian's team began to fall apart, losing that major switch into Helios allowed it to take on his team a lot better, and could volt switch all around his team without too much worry. It could have done that before, since Mega Ampharos doesn't have Volt Absorb or Lightning Rod when the Mega evolves, but even still, like, Mega Ampharos was a good switch-in against Helios, and now it's gone. Porygon 2 remains still a decent switch-in, but with Volt Switch, it can be, you can switch into something a lot more favorable, something like Shaymin, which can lower its special defense, or Tyranitar, which can set up on it. Shaymin ended up killing Porygon 2 with a Seed Flare, and then Manaphy avenged Porygon 2 by going for Ice Beam and killing him. Also, Hitmontop at some point killed Crobat with a Stone Edge, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. But in the end, his team could not withstand too many more hits could not withstand too many more hits from Socrates' team, as Darmanitan fell to Stealth Rocks. Let's see what else. Manaphy and Hitmontop both fell to Slowking, to a combined Slowking after since Manaphy did not pack Energy Ball, which would have done a lot more to Slowking. I'm wondering actually why he did not pack Energy Ball, considering he had Hippowdon, Tyranitar, and Slowking, all of which were decently likely to be brought, considering his team. But that's not my thing. I'm not going to question it. So it ended up being a 4-0 in the Vespiquen Park Rangers' favor, but I think the match could have been a lot closer. If certain other predictions would have been made, I think it could have gone either person's way. But in the end, Socrates won, and he moves on to being 2-0. I think with the highest differential at +9. Yeah, I think he's number 1 in the league currently. And then the Shamrock Snovers fall to 1-1 +2, which is actually not that bad of a score, especially for the beginning of the league. He still can definitely pull out some wins and make it playoffs. We will see what will happen though. All right, so let's move on to the standings. So, in first right now in the Ruby division, we have the Philly Shuckles, 2-0 plus 5. Not bad, not bad. Next we have the Detroit Magnetons, 1-1 plus 0, followed by the return of Quagsires, who are also tied with the Detroit Magnetons, 1-1 plus 0. Finally, we have the DMR Shadow Absols, 0-2 minus 8. Following that, we have the Washington Red Shells, who I own, and we are 2-0 plus 8, and currently leading the Sapphire division. Followed by the Denver Dashers, who are 1-1 minus 1, and the Iowa Focus Energies, who are also 1-1 minus 1. And finally, the Indus Valley Infernapes are 0-2 minus 4. I'm sure they'll pick up a win soon. The Berkhamsted Bastions are leading the Diamond Division, 2-0 plus 7, with the Oneonta Quagsires. Okay, Dylan, tell me how to pronounce that in the comments below. I don't know how to pronounce that. 1-1 minus 5. So, they have a long way to get back to a neutral differential. The LA Slowkings, who are currently 0-2 minus 6, and the Transylvania Trevenants 0-2 minus 7. Next up for the Pearl Division, which is probably the closest division in my opinion. Actually, no. I think either the Ruby Division or the Sapphire Division technically could be closer. It's just that the Vespertine or I don't know. These are all close divisions besides Diamond. So Vespertine Rangers are 2-0 with a plus 9 differential, followed by the Sequim Malamar, who are 2-0 plus 8 differential. The Shamrock Snovers make up third with a 1-1 plus 2 differential. Sorry, I meant to say plus 2. And the Gotham Golbats follow in last in the Pearl Division with an 0-2 minus 8. Hopefully those 0-2 teams can pick up wins soon. So, with that all caught up, let's move on to the MVP race. So now we have the MVP race. In first we have My Mega Scizor with 6 kills, 0 deaths, and plus 6 differential. Pretty good. We then have the Manaphy. We then have Manaphy, the MVP from last week, from the Shamrock Snovers, with 6 kills, 1 death, and plus 5 differential. Really close to Scizor. Scizor just needs a bad game, and Manaphy just needs a good game to swap back for Manaphy to take back first. Then we have Dragonite, consistently getting 2 kills each game, with it being now 4 kills, 0 deaths, plus 4 differential. Owned by the Berkhamsted Bastions. Following down the list of mons that aren't shown now, we have in 4th place Volcanion, who was originally 2nd last week. 4-1 plus 3 differential, owned by the Sequim Malamars. Then Tornadus Therian, also 4-1 plus 3 differential, owned by the Detroit Magnetons. Azumarill, 3-0 plus 3, owned by the Denver Dashers. Blissey, which is a really weird one to see, even for me, who used Blissey really well back in Season 1. 3-0 plus 3, owned by the Iowa Focus Energy. Bronzong, who is also 3-0, owned by the Vespertine Bark Rangers. Sock, who again is 3-0, owned by the Oneonta Quagsires. And finally, Suicune, who is 3-0, owned by the Philly Shuckles. So a lot of 3-0 mons. So overall, this MVP race is shaping up pretty interestingly with mons like Bronzong and Blissey in the top 10, but we'll see how later on in the season this shapes up. So, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, good for you. Glad I make someone happy with these videos. And I will see you guys in the next weekly recap, where I'm sure a lot of things will shake up. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.